One time in Cancun, Mexico, I got a really bad allergic reaction and had to cancel my flight and had to look for a doctor. And we found the closest doctor to where we were staying, and it turned out to be a pediatrician's allergy office. And I am 20 years old, so I was in that waiting room with a bunch of kids who were coughing and licking all the chairs, and I was sitting there waiting for the allergist to come out and tell me what was wrong with me. And I felt very scared because I didn't know what I was allergic to, but also it was a very funny experience.
That time that I was waiting for my physical in my doctor's office, I was mostly just bored waiting for my appointment because it took them a while to come get me. And I was also a little bit anxious because I don't like getting shots, so I was just sitting there like wondering if I was going to get any shots that time because they never tell me. So it was a combination of bored and anxious.
Last year, I was in a waiting room for my friend Nick when he had stomach issues and he was in the ER, so we were in the waiting room waiting for him.
So we were all just sitting there waiting, and we waited for hours and hours and hours.
I was in a waiting room because I took my friend to urgent care and we were waiting for her to see a doctor.
I was in an ER waiting room when I got in a car accident and had to get some stuff checked out.
I was there waiting for my sister as she was in labor.
The last time I was in a waiting room was when I was at my doctor's office waiting to get my physical.
I was in a waiting room recently because my grandfather died.
In the waiting room when he was in the ER, it felt it felt weird because every time we tried to go see him, they wouldn't let us. They had weird precautions in place, and so it was weird.
That waiting room, it wasn't the cleanest because there were a couple of people in the waiting room who were kind of, I don't know, irate, as you would be. And some people got bored and they started moving furniture around and doing things. There were kids there. It was late.
My friend was in the hospital. It was really late at night, and I remember feeling anxious, annoyed, and scared because there was a lot of different families in there.
And the waiting room is full of people because there's a shortage, a staff shortage.
because it was a pediatrician's office, and I thought that that was hilarious.
I remember noticing how disgusting a hospital smells. And how tired everyone looked there. And how dim the lights were. And how tired I was.
So it was weird because we couldn't check up on our friend when we wanted to check up on him. Yeah, that's what I remember.
And I remember feeling anxious, annoyed, and scared.
Yeah, it was pretty frustrating.
It was pretty strange and uncomfortable.
It was a combination of bored and anxious.
It was really bright.
I felt very scared.
And we waited for hours and hours and hours.
It was okay. It was fine. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. The chair was really uncomfortable.
There were kids there. It was late.
So I was in that waiting room.
And we're in the waiting room.
I was in a waiting room.
I was in a waiting room. In a waiting room. In a waiting room. In a
I
waiting
was in
room.
a waiting room.
I was in a waiting room.
In a waiting room. In a waiting room.
We're in a waiting room.
That waiting room.
In a waiting room. In a waiting room. In a waiting room.
Waiting room.
You know, waiting rooms aren't always the most pleasant experience.